Jean Paul, you were trained as a physiotherapist. As the image that I have is somebody who uses his hands to adjust a broken leg or something wrong in a patient's body. But then you told me you developed your own method where you are not touching with your hands practically, but with your presence. And this is something that could appear magical, but you told me it's not. Can you just explain a bit your work, please?
So, yes, I touch with the hands, but it's just in the second time. The base is really to create a field, create a connection with a patient, and with this kind of connection, being together, the manual contact is more clear, more evident, and more strong. And every time we talk with somebody, we think that just the words touch the person, but behind the word, as a base, there is something touching each other, and this thing is this kind of connection, and the communication is just above this connection. So nothing magical, but just before touching or before talking with somebody, it's necessary, and above all this kind of touch and communication, it's necessary, I think, to be connected first. So first we can say the kind of communion, and above that communication, touching, doing things with the body. So to meet the body alive, and not just the shape, empty shape.
Yes. Well, we in the Constellators community talk a lot about presence, but I have the feeling that how you understand presence is slightly different, slightly more precise. Can you a bit tell us about the background of this presence?
Presence. So yes, you are right. I think it's not just with constellators, but it's every time this word presence seems to be something natural, something evident, like that. I'm present, but behind that, so many times there is just nothing. Just we think we are present, but we are not present. So perhaps to talk about that, I can use the model of in the phenomenology and of Edmund Husserl. And in the early it was about 1930, I think, 1913. He wrote something in his Jahrbuch, and it was about way to talk about presence. And he said, he wrote something like that, 3 steps. And the first step, he called it presence. Presence as a state, just a state being here and doing nothing. You can imagine something like immobility, just a kind of awareness, as a kind of consciousness, being conscious, but not conscious of something. Just a state like that, and at that point is there is no movement of attention. It's a state of attention, but not attention to an object. That's the important point. And in the methodology of the phenomenology, there is a moment really important, and this moment is the moment of Husserl call it suspension. A moment will characterize a transition with before and after, two time, and this can introduce the presence. It's not progressive, absolutely no. There is a before and after, as we are outside the water, and and after we go down and we are in the water. So two worlds, two different conditions, and this transition characterize the beginning of a presence. And just after presence, when presence is here in a kind of passivity, so all kind of reactivity is away, cannot be in that way of being. And on that base, it's a second step, we call it attention. So attention is a kind of conscious, be conscious of something. So we can move our attention and put attention on that object, that person, that element. So during this movement of the attention, the base is always this state of awareness, the presence. And the third step, when the awareness is really well installed, the second, when attention is gain high mobility, capacity of mobility, so the third step is coming. And the first step, he call it the daily conscious, to be conscious for the daily life, and this way it's a kind of attention for everything, but without force, without doing something. It's a kind of it's a presence evident with everything. So we receive information from all the context, the ambience we are, and integrating all necessity for daily life. So this third point is like the flower of the presence, like the flower with the essence characterized in our daily life.
Well, and in your work with this presence, with these three states of presence also, you say you create one common body with the client. And how is this? How can we think of that? And what is the effect of this one body?
One body. Yes, this is a part of the tools to really create this connection. So one body is like that as tool to train people with that. So I elaborate some modalities, and these modalities are just antidotes to current way of being together. So with the first antidote I use is really that point, creating just one body. So when I talk about a body like that, you can imagine a physical structure. When we are with somebody, two bodies, two physical structure with two ways. And when we create this connection, you can imagine the barycenter of one body and barycenter of the other, and the force of reaction of to gravity of one and the other. This corresponds to two physical systems separated, and creating this connection, it becomes one physical system, but with one barycenter. It's the same with a group. It's creating one physical system, and that is the connection. As the conductor of a big orchestra, he creates one barycenter, and everybody knows what the other are doing, because they are connected by this center, this barycenter. And the way, practical way to do that is to consider the other in front, the tutor, consider the other as a weight. So not a person in the first step, but a weight, like that. So even if the person is in coma, even if the person is without conscience and is dying at the moment, like that, or a premature baby without this kind of conscience we have when we are adult. Anyway, it's the same. There is always a way. So considering that, you can imagine if you had to support, to lift this person, you can imagine that at the moment where you think that you have to concentrate in you a force to lift this person, at that moment all your mind disposition are adjusted, and one physical system is completed.
Yes, you have created these antidota. Am I correct? In order to overcome this century-old separation between mind and body, and help us to live and think in this body-mind as one integrated system. Is that right?
Yeah, it's right, absolutely. And in the expression body-mind, mind, okay, we can imagine what is that, but body, don't exist in the relation if we don't consider this physical aspect of the body. That's a very important point. And this, I think a big problem with the consideration of body-mind, it's something like that. Is that the mind has to do one thing with the body. Whereas it's just a concept, this kind of separation, but it's also a kind of pathology. This pathology it's in every one of us. For example, with the model of Husserl, presence, attention, and vigilance, this first step, like that. And we are doing that at every moment, if we use the attention without this base of the state, the awareness, the presence, passive presence, if we use the attention like that, immediately we are disconnected of that world here, disconnected from the body, and the mind is with kind of agitation. So we can talk about body-mind, and it's the same putting attention on some part of the body. If at the base the awareness is not here, putting attention here and there create a kind of agitation in the mind. So again, the importance is really, what's important is really this base has this state of awareness, and with that, okay, we can speak something like okay, we can recognize something like body mind. It's a reality.
So when I listen to you, there is always on one side looking for a lot of very precise words and precise pictures and metaphors, and on the other side to not get attached to them.
Absolutely.
These concepts, to let them go immediately.
Absolutely. And we have to be really careful with the words we use, because we talk about phenomenology, for example, but it's impossible to talk about phenomenology being from outside.
Yeah.
We have to be inside. So when we are inside, we can talk about presence and attention, and we have to make this kind of translation, and so we can talk about these things: presence, attention, and vigilance, and things like that. But the problem is we talk about that being outside, and being outside, we have to be really careful with the words used, and any word has to evoke what's happening when we are really inside this phenomenological point of view.
Yeah.
And that's a point really important, really important. When we are outside, it's a kind of voyeurism. Voyeurism.
Yes, yes.
And we always talk like that, and so we are to be really careful to incorporate, to operate this translation, being inside what we are talking about.
And is this, do I understand it correctly, inside in two ways? One, inside our body, ourselves, when we are talking,
yes,
and also inside the roots, the history,
absolutely,
the thoughts that brought to this word phenomenology.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So it's different if I talk about phenomenology when I have read Husserl, Levinas, and so on, if I have talked with Jean Paul about that.
Yes, absolutely. And all these things, every time we talk about words, we have to think that these are concepts. These are concepts. And the philosopher Gilles Deleuze was talking about, I like that a lot, was talking about percept-concept being together. So to make the concept alive. And when we know that all these words are just concept, they can be useful for us. And all these concepts, as phenomenology, for example, are tools. But they are an origin. Somebody created that, and the man or the woman creating that received a kind of information before. But they are just words, way of some kind of perspective to look at something non-having word. Non-having word. So it's really important to be not to give a big importance for the word, but at the same time we have to be really rigorous with the potential of evocation of every word we use. They have to be alive.
And well, then, now let's. You have seen us working with constellations.
Yeah.
What is your impression about our work? What are similarities with your work? What are differences?
I think this work is totally inside the phenomenology. Totally inside the phenomenology. Without talking about phenomenology, but there are phenomena happening, and I think it can be very different from one practitioner and another. Mm-hmm. It can be very, very different, and depending the way to be present, depending the curriculum, the cursus, and particularly the experience with people. And my impression is that being with groups like that, every moment of every attitude, every word said is really important for the client. And if every attitude, every word is perceived as important by the consultant, so the constellation can be a really a useful tool, because it's useful. Mm-hmm. But if the grade of consciousness of everybody in this constellation don't permit to integrate all data coming out, it can create problems. As I notice problems during the treatments with some patients. Mm-hmm. When the practitioner in hospital, the nurse, the medical doctor, or when this health professional are not connected with a person, when they cannot operate this translation to incorporate the perspective of the patient. Mm-hmm. So I think it can be the same with the constellation. And something more for constellation, I'm really impressed by the fact of being groups. So many kilos here, and strong potential to animate and to reveal phenomena. Mm-hmm. So strong potential, and if this potential is well contact, mm-hmm. With contact, can be great things. But as every time with this kind of, I noticed the same thing with my work in a hospital or with musicians like that. There is a kind of wow, a kind of big thing like that. And if it's perceived as a big thing by the consultant, by the client, it means difficulty to integrate what is happening. So I think as in the hospital or things like that, the tendency is to go to the simple. So not reducing the intensity. What made a situation simple is high intensity integrated. Mm-hmm. High intensity integrated. So it's simple. So the integration of what happened is at every moment during the work, during the constellation, during the accompaniment in the hospital with a patient or with a musician, or it's like that, during that moment. As during delivery, for example, when the woman is clearly integrated, there's no problem. Intensity, incredible, strong intensity, but the capacity of digestion, integration of what happened are at moment. If it's not that, all the life, this woman talking about delivery, wow, what a fantastic thing. So it don't mean fantastic. It means it was not integrated. Mm-hmm. And if, for example, in the constellation, I can imagine somebody receive a constellation or a group like that, and the constellation helped a lot. Yeah. And every time you talk with this person says, "Oh, that moment was fantastic." It means it was not integrated.
It kills the experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for when a patient was cured with our work like that, if 10 years after I say, "Oh, it was so fantastic," it means it's not cured.
Mm-hmm. So it's better that they even forget about that.
It's not forget. It's a kind of it was integrated in the flow of living.
Yeah. This brings to my mind another metaphor that they're using, the vertical and the horizontal dimensions, where, as I understand you right, this presence can be visualized as a vertical integration, and with the barycenter of the whole group and of the whole constellation. And the constellation itself is the horizontal.
Absolutely.
And if we are too much focusing on the horizontal, and being fascinating by what's happening there, people crying, people falling down, and so then we tend to lose this rooting, and then it's just
perfectly.
Yeah.
It's just that. So with the word used during our conversation we have now, we can say that with this model of a vertical and horizontal, phenomena are on horizontal. Mm-hmm. What is the animation of the phenomena is the vertical. Mm-hmm. Is a vertical. So phenomena has some form here, the shape here of the phenomena, the forms like that. But these forms are changing at every moment. And what makes this form transforming, changing, as the kind of communication between the person in the constellation, in a group, what kind of disharmony or harmony? Harmonious. So it's making this provoking this movement. This is from the vertical, and we can think like that perhaps too. Is that the vertical is not in that time and space we know, and horizontal is time and space from here, really here. So more existential and ontologic for vertical. And without the presence of a vertical, naturally a kind of ego is growing. Mm-hmm. Is growing when the vertical is active. Immediately. It's not extraordinary spirituality, things like that. No, it's all toutes les croyances, believe, things like that too, are always changing. change, and there is a kind of stability inside. And the reference with what we were talking about in our conversation here, the reference of a vertical is awareness, the presence.
Okay.
Just presence.
I think with this image we can close our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guillaume.
Non. What?
Je dis complètement autre chose toujours, mais ça fait rien.